He was shining for a little bit last year. He had some great stretches of play where I thought he might take that next step and be a great wide receiver. But I think they just labeled that as, hey, this is a situation we got to move on from. I mean, this is someone we wanted more production from, and we haven't gotten it yet. And you look at the Arizona Cardinals from their point of view. They knew what was going down with DeAndre Hopkins. They knew they wanted to get another weapon outside. They lose an A.J. Green. They lose a couple pieces on that offense. And you end up going ahead and going back and taking someone like Hollywood Brown, reuniting him with Mr. Kyler Murray. So I think it's a good move for the Cardinals side. The Ravens, I mean, I'm not a fan of it from their vantage point, but it was one of those where they just chalked up to, hey, maybe it wasn't the best pick that we made a few years ago.
Hollywood, whoa.
Do we think that had the wide receivers not went on a run there, that the Cardinals still make that trade, or do they draft one instead? Say a Chris Olave, say a Jameson Williams, a Treylon Burks is still there. Do you think that trade still happens, or do you think they take one of the younger guys?
Not with Jamo.
That would be, I mean, yeah, I guess it would be dependent on, I mean, I think they would have. I think they would have stayed pat, though. And that, like, when you think about that question, you're basically saying, would you rather, if you're Arizona, would you rather Hollywood or any of these guys? Are you saying that these guys are going to end up being better than Hollywood Brown? Are you willing to take your shot on these guys? And to be honest, I think I would have Olave. I would have rather taken my shot on him than Hollywood. Jameson Williams. I would have rather taken my shot on him. Jahan Dotson? Is that the line? Maybe?
No, because I think Jahan Dotson's better than both of those guys. But what is that noise?
Sorry, I live near an Air Force base. They fly every hour.
Oh my goodness!
We have been doing shows together for so long, and I don't think I have ever heard that. Even our draft show, we have never heard that.
No, 4 hours of coverage.
What the hell?
They fly by every hour.
Anyways,
got your roof open?
What? Got the sunroof open? Tammy got the windows open. That's what it is. Tammy got the windows open.
Jesus Christ.
But I think that's what it comes down to.
I don't know. I don't know. I actually like Hollywood Brown better than some of those guys you named. I'd rather have Hollywood Brown, than Chris Olave. You know how I feel about him. I honestly probably would rather have Hollywood Brown over Jahan Dotson, maybe over Jameson Williams. I don't think Hollywood Brown gets a fair shake playing in the offense he played in. That is a low volume passing game, and they don't use the outside threat very often. It's just a fact. And now he's going to a situation that does. So we saw his number. I talked about this the other day. We saw his numbers increase each year. I think you give him an opportunity to kind of show out in Arizona here early on, and he's going to be a threat there. I mean, you think about the guys they got, it's just A.J. Green, him, and Rondell Moore right now for the first 6 games. So I could see Hollywood Brown having a really nice year with Kyler Murray. I just thought I was just curious, like, do they think maybe like you and say, oh, maybe a Jameson Williams upside is better than a Hollywood Brown? But let's not forget, Hollywood Brown was drafted, I believe, 18th overall in the first round of an NFL draft just a few years ago. So it's just an interesting thought.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it like a 3 touchdown drop game that he had? Like he would have 3 touchdowns and he dropped all of them or something last season. Is that what it was?
Maybe. I don't know.
I if I'm not mistaken, but what I'm getting at is we'll be sitting here now talking about maybe 1,000 and 1,100 yards or 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns, as opposed to just over 1,000 and 6 touchdowns in a run-heavy offense where everybody says Hollywood Brown just wasn't it. So I would have Hollywood over those guys.
You would think that would have been over 1,000. You would think that would be an 1,100 yard season if Lamar was the quarterback for the whole season.
That would be the case. He had a great year. Like Hollywood had a really great year. He was playing with Tyler Huntley for a while. Like, let's not forget about all the injuries there.
Yeah, the biggest thing is it comes down to the fit. And he didn't seem like he fit there and wanted to move on. But I'm very excited for this offseason to progress and us to start getting into our fantasy shows, because I'm very interested to see you guys' thoughts on AJ Brown and Hollywood Brown's fantasy outlook heading into the 2022 season. But I guess you guys are just going to have to stay tuned to that. And speaking of the Arizona Cardinals, we will be talking about the Arizona Cardinals and the entire NFC West only on YouTube tomorrow when our clips drop, so be on the lookout for that. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube page at Sac City Pod and the rest of the great stuff. Dylan, now's your chance, buddy. Feed the ducks and tell the beautiful people at home where they can follow us at.
I got some bread in my hand. I think I'm ready to feed some ducks, you know? Quack, quack. Head on over to all social media platforms. That's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's Twitter, it's YouTube, and it's that tweet, TikTok, all at Sac City Pod. Type in Sac City Pod and on all of those applications, and it'll pop up. You'll see our beautiful 4 faces. Well, 3 plus mine. But it's amazing. You'll see all of our faces. You'll hear all of our content, all of our funniness. It happens at Sac City Pod on all 5 of those platforms. Be sure to check us out. Leave a like, leave a comment, and leave a subscription.
This is your fault. This is your fault.
I think I made the right choice. I think I made the right choice.
Before the show, AJ's like, I'm just not feeling it. So send the social read to Dylan. And Dylan, you knocked it out of the park, man. You knocked it out of the park.
I think we were blessed.
What I come in for is this bad boy. Or do you want it? Dylan, do you know about this? Are you aware of this?
I am aware. It's the Sac City shirt. Check it out. I believe we got 10 days left. Is that the thing there, Vinny?
That is correct. Good job,
10 days.
Dylan. Wow. Holy shit, this guy's hot.
Yeah, hot streaks come to an end. But anyways, welcome to Sac City, ladies and gentlemen. The draft was held in Las Vegas, of course. Great graphic design there on a t-shirt. Slap it on there and buy it. You can purchase it. Bonfire. Be sure to check it out. The link is available on our social medias. And I just told you where to find it at Sac City Pod. Purchase that shirt today and rep the Sac City in your city.
What a guy. What a move. What a way to end it. Slam dunked it. Just dunked on that. Good job, Dylan. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I learned
Sac
how to
City,
do ad reads.
all that good stuff. You did. Did you learn that in what, Debbie's class?
No, it was the later one. Remember
16?
the Leinenkugels? Remember that?
Schetzel.
Yeah, Schetzel.
I'm sure Schetzel
No.
we should do ad read.
The audio podcast. Eminem.
No.
Get Hazel Nutty.
100%.
No.
Did Hazel
I had it in I had it in Christine's class. It was like an orange
No,
soda
she
thing
did
that
one
we had.
too. She did one too. She did one too, but hers was different. Even Mac had them too. But
you guys did ad reads?
Yeah.
You didn't do an ad read?
Remember you got the list for the podcast? You had to do the 10-minute podcast week 2 of Schetzel. Get Hazel Nutty and crunch into Eminem Hazelnut.
He's forgetting because the only thing on his
You
mind
guys are such
is
overachievers.
Wow. The only thing on your mind, though, is the Cowboys draft, which is where we are starting tonight to kick off our NFC East draft recap. The Cowboys did some big things early on in the draft with the big 3, Tyler Smith in the first round, followed up by Sam Williams and my guy, Jalen Tolbert. Aaron, you are the resident Cowboy fan here. It's only fitting that you kick things off. And what were your overall thoughts on this draft for the Cowboys? We know on Thursday you were a little bummed out about the Tyler Smith thing, and then he came back on Friday. You were happy, positive about it, and now it's all over. How are you feeling?
I feel okay. Okay. I'm not going to say it's great, and I'm not going to say it's poor. The fact of the matter is they did what they've done for the past decade. They've addressed needs. You're right. The first day I was not happy about Tyler Smith. I thought there were some other ways they could have gone. But the fact remains is the offensive line depth was a problem, regardless of what we did in the offseason, letting go of a Lyle Collins, losing a Connor Williams. The offensive line needed to be addressed. They did that with the Tyler Smith and Matt Waletzko. They actually did it with a Jake Ferguson as well, who they can kind of mix in at tight end. And he's good in the pass game, but he can also, improve as a blocker, hopefully give us some depth there. They went after edge rusher. They went after linebacker and defensive back. Those are all needs of the Dallas Cowboys. It's what they've been doing for a decade. I think it lacked the star power that I think we were kind of accustomed with the Dallas Cowboys, right? Getting a CeeDee Lamb, getting these big names, and people want to see those big names come off the board. So my issue so much at the end of the day wasn't about the draft. There were some question marks about the players. Sam Williams, I had some question marks where he went. I thought there might have been some guys there that they could have took over him. He has some ability, but he lacks some strength at times. So that grade that I give on a Sam Williams is not as high. But overall, I thought they did an okay job. I really liked the Damon Clark pick in the 5th round. if he can come back and play football next year in 2023, I think that is going to be big for them. And again, it was late pick. It was a risk, but very little risk with the high reward. So overall, okay.
Now, and I don't mean to continue on you here, but I'm going to, because I believe you mentioned to me the other day that you were trying to defend the Sam Williams pick the other day on TikTok. Was that what you were doing? Or because you gave him a C here, and then you listed that you wanted to negatively talk about him tonight. So what's going on with Sam Williams?
No, so I did not tell you that I was like defending him. I went on TikTok and got into it with the guy because he was showing a play of Sam Williams basically beating Alabama. Like he went around the edge on Evan Neal, but he over pursued. So Evan Neal just let him get up the field and pushed him out, and it left this big void. The guy said it opened up the offensive line. I said, no, it created a pocket for the quarterback. And then he started bringing up stuff. Well, if Micah Parsons was the linebacker, he could have shot the gap and he would have closed the distance. It made no sense. Is what I was trying to say is Sam Williams the ability is there. That technique can be poor. He can over pursue at times. He lacks strength sometimes when he tries to go straight into one of those bigger tackles. They tend to just maul him. Those are things that I'm worried about with Sam Williams, but he does have some ability. I think he can develop. I think he'd be really, really good on third down passing situations initially. But yes, I do believe there were better rushers at that time in the draft. But again, I know they're looking for dynamic playmakers on that defense. He can kind of grow into that, I believe. But no, I wasn't actually defending Sam Williams in itself. I was trying to tell this Cowboys fan on TikTok that he was wrong.
Okay. Because that was you were the lowest on that. And when you look at my grades, I put a big fat D on that one. Not whoa. Yeah. I gave that one a D. I didn't like the pick. I didn't like Sam Williams there, especially with guys like Nick Bonito still on the board, and you go for Sam Williams. I thought that was. I
don't think Nick Bonito was still on the board.
He was.
He's on the ice.
He was. Yeah, Nick Bonito and Drake Jackson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Nick Bonito went in the second round, right?
Yes, with like the last pick in the second round.
Sam Williams went before him. I remember checking. I remember.
Yeah, I can't. That's why I graded it the way it was, because Sam Williams went 56th overall, and Nick Bonito went 64th overall to the Denver Broncos. 64th. So that's why I went even lower on that, because I thought Nick Bonito was a better, and not Nick Bonito, Dylan, but Nick Bonito.
Well, you guys like Nick Bonito as well, and I thought he would drop because I'm not a huge fan of Nick Bonito. I probably would have felt the same way.
Okay, so you're okay with going Sam Williams over Nick Bonito?
Yeah, that's not a big deal.
I don't think he thinks it moves the needle that much, and I mean, to an extent, I would agree that the only issue with Sam Williams, in my opinion, is just the timing. If you really wanted him, he probably would have still been there in the third round if you really wanted him, and that's my only issue. But other than that, what he does on the field, and maybe not at the Cowboys pick, you might be right about that, but what he does on the field, I think, is going to help. I think that takes away a little bit of that Randy Gregory void. His length is something that I think is going to help a lot while he tightens up and polishes his actual NFL football acumen. So some of the natural ability you'll see, he'll be able to rush the passer and create havoc and allow some of these other guys and these other linebackers to get through and get to the quarterback. So he just has to be polished, in my opinion. But I liked it a little bit more than Aaron does. But it's his team. I get it.
Yeah. He's a harsh critic, man. He wants the best for his Cowboys.
I was easily the hardest grader out of anybody. Overall,
I don't know, man.
Like
I'm pretty sure I dropped a 1.9 on someone today.
You did.
Yeah. I'm not saying individually there weren't picks that were lower than mine, but overall, you guys were a little bit more generous with grades than I was. And it's just kind of, again, my mentality post-draft. I'm no longer hyping these players up. It's not about hype to me anymore. These players have been drafted. Now I'm telling you what they need to do to be good NFL football players. And I think that's where I struggle with just grading guys. I'm not no longer looking at their college tape. I don't care. The fact of the matter is, how are you going to translate to the NFL now? And that's where I'm at. So.
And apparently Nick Bonito doesn't translate well.
No, it's just I'm not as high on him as others. I don't want to say he can't be good.
He would.
Nick Bonito
Broncos are going to beat the Cowboys this year.
Do they play this year? Is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing.
I don't know. But I'm just I'm still mad that I went back on it last year because they were playing like trash and the Cowboys were playing great. And then the Broncos smash.
AJ, let it go. Gotta let it go. Gotta let it go.
He loves Denver.
It was a regular season game. The Broncos didn't make the playoffs. The Cowboys went 12-5. You were right, Kay, to pick the Cowboys. Stop.
That was wrong.
Denver is AJ's AFC crush. He loves them.
Yeah. Big time Denver guy.
But, okay.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Does anyone else have anything that they want to talk about on the Cowboys? Because we're going to have an overall GPA released at the end of this show regarding the Cowboys and the rest of the NFC East. But is there any other players that jumped out to you guys that the Dallas Cowboys selected throughout the draft, whether it be first round or seventh round, whatever?
I'll be quick. If the words are true and Damone Clark gets to play in 22, it's going to be a great pick. He was one of those guys at LSU that kind of held everything down to get him in the 5th round. Honestly, even if he ends up redshirting a year, I get they need linebacker help. But when he's on the field, you'd imagine he's going to be better. I know there's some fear with the Jalen Smith situation, how they waited on him. But if he can stay healthy and if he plays in 2022, he's going to be a guy that can change that linebacking core next to Micah Parsons. I really like the fact that they decided to go after that pick in the 5th round. You know, they didn't reach or anything like that. We had him. I think we talked about someone grabbing him in the 4th round. And then lastly, I gave an A+ grade to Matt. Well, let's go! Just for my guy Aaron. I was very happy that you got Matt. Well, let's go in your squad. So I gave an A+ grade for that, just for my guy.
Yeah, Aaron, you actually had that as a B+ on there when I think all of us went A on that one. Dylan went a B on it, but that was the guy we were like, oh, he went to the Cowboys. I'm sure Aaron's going to just love that pick.
I do. A B+ is loving. Like, not everything has to be an A. The B+ is, I believe he's a sleeper. I believe he's going to be a really good offensive lineman in the NFL for a really long time. But that doesn't make him a Hall of Famer. That doesn't mean that this was a slam dunk, knock it out of the park. I mean, let's be honest. He still comes from a very small school in North Dakota, doesn't play the greatest competition. He has to show he can do it at the NFL level. I like him, but again, I'm not just going to throw A's around the park just because it's a guy I like. I'm very realistic. I definitely just
threw that one out there. I was like, hey, hell yeah, give it to him. My guy got his guy.
You get an A. You get an A.
It was one of those days the teacher came to work and was really happy about what happened the night before, which is giving out A's.
Just buzzing. Dylan?
I wanted to say one thing on Clark. You know, AJ said he'd be short, then he rambled for 55. But, you know, I am going to be short. Clark, you know, I think we've seen Dallas do this many times, right? Van Der Esch had some injury history, wearing the big old neck roll and something there at the linebacker position. Jalen Smith, we mentioned earlier, injury, trying to give it a shot. I mean, I love the way that Dallas every single year, not every single year, but, you know, they take those risks at the linebacker position on guys that fall. I'm shocked they didn't try it with Miles Jack. I mean, just linebackers that fall that could potentially fit their scheme. And although they do have the injury history or concern, they take that swing, and a 5th round pick on a guy like that, it could be advantageous for them.
Yep. First round grade linebacker if 100% healthy. He's going in the 1st round. So again, low risk, high reward. If it doesn't work out, it's just a 5th round pick that didn't work out.
Yep. Which is it's pretty it's common with some of these other teams in the NFC East, because the next team we're going to talk about is the Philadelphia Eagles, and they drafted Jordan Davis in the 1st round, followed up by Cam Jurgens, and then drafted the linebacker who fits that exact thing right there, what we just said. 1st round grade. If he did not have those health concerns or declining shoulder surgery, he would have been a 1st round talent, 1st round pick. He then falls to the Philadelphia Eagles in the middle rounds, and an absolute steal. This definitely, the Eagles, I feel like, rank very high up in best drafts in the NFL. And when you look at our grades for them, and I'll just jump into mine here, obviously not a lot of picks, because I mean, the AJ Brown trade and then moving up to get certain guys. I really liked what the Philadelphia Eagles here. Jordan Davis is an obvious, just perfect pick. And then the Cam Jurgens pick, that's the one I kind of wanted to talk about here before I send it to Dylan for his boy Kyron Johnson. The Cam Jurgens pick, it kind of confuses me. They have Jason Kelce. Does Cam Jurgens play this year, or is it wait behind Jason Kelce and then boom?
Well, I mean, Jason Kelce was getting prepared to retire this season, so the fact that he came back, you get a guy who in Nebraska they said was one of the better centers in college football. Of course, other people have different thoughts on that, but he gets to learn behind Jason Kelce. And they say that they liked a lot of what he does is how Jason Kelce was able to be successful in their system. They see a lot of Kelce in Cam Jurgens. So even if there's just enough there that Kelce can teach him what he's been doing to be successful, how to mesh with that line, I think he fits in next season when Kelsey's gone.
So no playing unless barring an injury. Can Cam Jurgens, right. Aaron, can he play guard? Do you see him playing anywhere else on that line this season, or is it behind Jason Kelce unless there's an injury and then boom?
I think it might be injury kind of related just because of the fact that the Philadelphia's offensive line is actually really good. So it's not like they have some kind of beat up offensive line, but can he play other positions? Sure. He's versatile. He played multiple sports in high school. He's somebody who's super athletic. We talk about, he was a multi-position athlete in multiple different sports. He played linebacker before, he's played tight end. So this is a guy that's athletic, can move around. I just think this is more of a wait and see approach with them. Let Jason Kelce kind of finish out his career. And then you bring in a guy like Cam Jurgens who can learn from, I don't want to say his protege, but they're very, very similar. Yeah. Now, is he going to turn out to be Jason Kelce? That's one of the better offensive lineman centers in the NFL. So I don't know if we'll get to that extent, but the fact of the matter is he could play now if they need him to. I just don't know if that's going to be the case. They have Landon Dickerson, they have Mailata, they have Simolo, and then they have Lane Johnson. So I don't know where you're putting Cam Jurgens to start. But if there's an injury on that offensive line and you need to plug him in, you can.
Yep.
And by the way, I didn't love the pick either. I mean, I graded that pick actually lower, but it had nothing to do with Cam Jurgens. I think, first of all, in totality, I think you guys are overhyping the Eagles draft. I don't think they actually drafted that well. I don't. I feel like the Jordan Davis pick was a great pick, but again, it's for like next year. It's for they're almost preparing 2 years from now because you still have Fletcher Cox in the middle. You still have a good defensive line already. Yeah, he'll contribute, but it's for 2 years from now. We're talking about Nakobe Dean, who's, again, you guys know how I feel about Nakobe Dean. Love him, but the more I hear about him, the more I'm getting even concerned about the injuries, because it's not just the injuries. It's also the size. It's also the ability to go sideline to sideline in the NFL with that speed. So there's a little bit of concern there, but I still graded him as a B+. And then the other guys, I just felt like, again, another tight end. They didn't address the secondary, which is a huge question mark for me. So I don't praise the Eagles draft as highly as maybe Vinny does. I thought they had some nice picks, but I think a lot of people are looking at the A.J. Brown trade and saying, oh, that was such a great draft for them because they got A.J. Brown. I didn't include that in here.
I have to slightly disagree with you when it comes to Nakobe Dean. I mean, I get that the concerns are there, but he said over and over again that these injuries have not been serious. Maybe they've been some things that are nagging, but I mean, he's coming from great stock. I mean, some people would argue that he was the best player on the best defense in the SEC last season. I mean, and the best part about it with him is because of that defensive line and all the depth they have at it, this guy may be one of those who never has to go one-on-one with the blocker, or very, very seldomly will be able to get through the gaps, will be able to bust the edge, will be able to do things with his speed that will allow him to go not untouched every time, but if he can get a blast on somebody, it's going to be over quicker than it started. So if these injuries from his side of things, they're not as serious as they say, getting him in the third round as a linebacker who can step in and be an impact, I'd be all about that for him.
Yeah, that's why you have to rank him. I mean, you look at it, I think all of us, and even in AJ's grade, gave that an A. I gave that an A as well. I mean, whether the injury thing is a concern or not, that you're getting a first-round talent, similar to what we just talked about with Damon Clark. Getting that type of player with that potential in the third round, it's an absolute steal. If he pans out, great. If he doesn't, you only spent a third-round pick, a mid to late third-round pick on him. So I'm not saying that. Actually, I am saying it's a great pick. It is a great pick from the Philadelphia Eagles.
I think you guys are downplaying the fact that it's just injuries. I don't know that it's just injuries. There is more concern about Nakobe Dean than just injuries. Size is an issue. His speed is an issue. Like, these are things that scouts and GMs, now that the draft is over, has come out and said that. And to AJ's point, at Georgia, he played with Trayvon Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis on their defensive line. As good as Philadelphia's defensive line is, it's not that in college. Like, this is the NFL. They're also going against all-pro offensive linemen. This is not Georgia versus Kentucky in some SEC game. Like, Nakobe Dean is going to have to get physical and go ahead and get off of blocks. It's not going to be free reign like he had at Georgia. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing Nakobe Dean because I was the first person to bring up Nakobe Dean. I love him. I love his mentality. The more I look into it, the more I pay attention, the more I'm starting to look at NFL skill sets. He could have a very hard time translating that to the NFL. And then you mix in the injury history, the speed in which the game is played at the NFL. I start to pull back a little bit. And again, a B+ is a great grade for a 3rd round pick, by the way. But I want to keep expectations where they should be at and not think this guy's going to come out all of a sudden and be some all pro. Like, I need to see it now. I think it's a good pick, but I need to see it.
Yeah. I gave that an A+. I was freely to give that one an A+ because he was the best. He was by far the best inside linebacker available. Like, it wasn't even close there. They needed an inside linebacker. They needed linebacker help.
They did.
And then, because, I mean, we were on the chat talking on day 2 about how the Eagles, because what did they go? They went offense in the 2nd round, right? That was, what did they go? Oh, yeah, they went Cam Jurgens. They went center. They went a depth piece in the 2nd round. So it's like, Eagles, what are you doing? Now in the 3rd round, you do go out and you get that guy who is an actual need, best player there, and it's not even close. So that's why I gave that an A+. But Dylan, Kyron Johnson.
Kyron Johnson. He's good, man. He's good. He's a good little linebacker, you know. You look at Nakobe Dean, right? He's someone that you mentioned could have size issues, whatever. Kyron Johnson's a nice little kid out of Kansas. He played pretty solid linebacker in college, and I mean, that guy's a hard tackler. He plays hard, and that's what you want on your defense, is someone who can move around a little bit. In the 6th round, getting someone of that skill set, I'm about it. I think that was a fantastic pick by them. I mean, that guy, he proved it in Kansas, and he could prove it in Philadelphia as well. And there's a lot of moving pieces on that defense, and there's a lot of great talent on that defense that he could step in, maybe pop some heads in training camp and work his way into the starting lineup.
There you go.
So, starting lineup, wow. I mean, Kaiser White, Derek Barnett, Hassan Reddick, Nakobe Dean, TJ Edwards. I don't think he's cracking anybody's starting lineup unless there's some injuries there. Again, late round pick, nice. Like Dylan said, he's a nice little player.
Plays hard. He'd probably be a hell of a special team.
The one thing that you did mention, he's a very consistent tackler, and he actually does play special teams. He's really good at it, but his arms are really short. Offensive linemen get on him. He doesn't play as strong, so he's not going to be that like middle linebacker guy. He's more going to play that outside Hassan Reddick position, and I don't think he's supplanting Hassan Reddick. But off the ball linebacker depth is needed in the NFL. He might be able to stay on a team. He might make the team. We'll see. But again, grading him high. Yes. You got to remember, these round 5 through 7 picks don't always make the team, guys. They could be practice squad players. They could be on a different team by the time the season starts. So pump the brakes on a Kyron Johnson. That's all.
There you go. Back to this. There you go.
He's a dog.
We'll move on here. But before we do that, I want to pull the curtain back. And this does not have to be on YouTube or whatever. I set Dylan up there for failure. 100% failure there.
Thank you,
not intentional, but 100% failure there because I mixed up him and the running back from Notre Dame because I'm an asshole and we're talking in the Rams in just a little bit. So, yeah my apologies, Dylan. My apologies.
Okay. I went with
Well, damn, you should have put that in the chat so I wouldn't have bashed him for saying he's a nice player.
Honestly, while he was talking, I was like, wait a second. Kansas.
What did he give him?
Kansas.
What did he give him? What did he give him on a grade?
C.
Oh, Vinny, you're the worst, Vinny.
I was like, damn, for somebody he was excited
definitely,
for.
Definitely going on YouTube. Definitely going on YouTube.
In my personal notes, I put just ask Dylan about
Kyron Williams, not Johnson.
No, I just put Kyron. That's all I put.
You just put Kyron.
That's all I put. And I, for some reason, like an asshole, just only put my personal notes just for our NFC West show, not thinking about
That's
this.
funny.
And I looked at that and I'm like, oh shit. And he said Kansas, and I was like, wait, what?
At least you didn't roll the B-roll of Kyron Williams.
Yeah.
We don't have it. We don't have it.
Yeah, we don't have it. But no, so I apologize, Dylan. We're gonna now move on, and hopefully I can set you up for something better when we talk about the Washington Commanders and their draft. They started it off trading back and then selecting Jahan Dotson, followed by Fedarian Mathis and Sam Howell. It was a later pick. I know that's not in chronological order, but just for Aaron, I made sure to put Sam Howell on this list because Aaron gave that pick an A. An A.
Minus.
But you gave it an A too.
I may have also given it an A.
And so did Dylan. He gave it an A plus.
Oh yeah, Dylan gave it an A plus. AJ, the big Carson Wentz fan, did not like Sam Howell in the 5th round.
Of
He
course.
That shit a B.
Of course.
He's
like, why they draft Sam Howell? They got Carson
Howell
Wentz.
Is trash.
They got Carson Wentz.
Hey.
Sam Howell's a good little runner. He's a good little runner.
Sam Howell is trash, and Carson Wentz is the dumpster.
Let me go back, because honestly, I didn't even want to say he was trash. I am not a fan of what I've seen Sam Howell do. The only reason it's got to be is because I also agree that the Washington Commanders need a quarterback because Carson Wentz is only going to be there for a short amount of time. So, but say what you will with your A's and whatnot. I mean, hey, bravo. They got to keep me. They also waited 5 rounds to do it.
Real quick, you know who his dog was in college, right? De'Ami Brown. They're together in Washington.
Well, that's
yeah.
fun.
He won't do much there with Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin there. But listen, let's get into the Washington, whatever their team name is, Commanders draft now.
So much hate.
I graded this team very, very poorly, to be honest, overall. The 2 players that got over a C were Jahan Dotson for me, strictly based on his talent alone. I hated the pick, but on his talent alone, I gave him a B. I gave them a B for that pick because he's that good to me. And then the A- that I gave Sam Howell. They did not address anything that they needed. Like nothing. They just didn't do anything that they needed. They went out last year. They got a Curtis Samuel. Defensive line. You want to play the B-roll for Fedarian Mathis? Let's talk about it. Montez Sweat, Chase Young. They got a defensive line full of Pro Bowl and potential like all pro defensive lineman players. And yet they go waste a 2nd-round pick on Fedarian Mathis. The fact, decent player, has some work to do, but I don't think Washington addressed any need that they had outside of the quarterback position, which they did late. And good for them. They got the A for Sam Howell. It just goes to show you the Daniel Snyder, that front office, not only can they not run an organization, but they don't know how to draft either. Like they can't put a good football product on the field either. It's terribly disappointing for a guy like a Jahan Dotson to get drafted to that organization right now, especially with all of the turmoil that's going on there. And it sucks for Ron Rivera because he came into it, but you would hope he could have kind of his thumbprint on it and make some changes there. I don't really know what they're doing. They, like I said, they drafted a running back who they just re-signed J.D. McKissick. They just got Antonio Gibson, who showed when you give him the ball, he can be effective. They just they had the other running back we tried to forgot about the other day. Yeah, Jared Patterson they just got. Yep. And then you go draft another one this year. Like, what is it that they're actually doing? Brian Robinson's a nice player, but where's he fit in that offense?
Well, it's one thing, and this is where my grades come. I gave that one an F, a flat out F. And I think Dylan also gave that one a flat out F. Yes, you did. You gave back-to-back Fs for the Washington Commanders, Dylan. But the Brian Robinson one, and you guys obviously know how big of an Alabama fan I am, I had a hard time giving him an F, but that's what they deserved because you talk about how they didn't even need a running back listing Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, and Jared Patterson, him falling down that depth chart. It's one thing to draft a running back and not really need it. It's the other thing to draft him with the 98th pick in the draft when you have 7th round picks that you could spend it on. Like, it doesn't make sense. That is absolutely mind-boggling for a team that you go out and you trade for Carson Wentz. You trade picks for Carson Wentz because you are a team that thinks that they have a shot at the Super Bowl or a shot at a good playoff run. Those type of picks don't do that. None of those picks Do that. I am so interested to see what the Commander fans have to say in the chat to react to this draft, because none of it made sense. None of it at all.
Vinny, it took you 26 episodes for a good take, and you nailed it right there.
Boom.
AJ, can you do me a favor while I make this point? Can you just look up second round, what DBs were still there in the second and third round, cornerbacks or safeties? And just oh, well, maybe you do. Then good, great. The fact of the matter is this is my point. The Washington depth chart, stop, please stop. The Washington depth chart outside of William Jackson in the secondary is Carmen Curl, Bobby McCain, Jeremy Reeves, Percy Butler. Now I believe he was drafted by them or picked up as a free agent. Benjamin St. Justy, I guess. Troy Apke, Corn Elder. Who are these people? And then they have Kendall Fuller. So they have Kendall Fuller. That the safeties are Carmen Curl and Bobby McCain.
Okay. Because right after the Fedarian Mathis pick, literally the Chicago Bears selected Jaquan Brisker, the safety out of Penn State, who would have been a absolutely great pick. And then there are other cornerbacks listed
as very next pick.
Martin Emerson was
very
there.
Next pick, even though it was a reach, was Alontae Taylor from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Anybody, just take the position of need when you need it, and there's good players available. Like to take a Fedarian Mathis, who is never I'm not gonna say never gonna see the field. He will see the field as a backup rotational defensive line piece. They got guys like Daniel Wise as backups already. And then you got Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and Deron Payne. Cool. Get after the passer, but you have so many other needs for a team that, quote, is close to winning that division and close to making the playoffs, everybody says. They just did a piss poor job of managing their roster and these draft picks.
Yep. I think we've hit it. I think we hit it with the Washington Commanders. And again, Commanders fans, Manny Nation, Commander Nation, whatever you guys are calling yourselves nowadays, please drop it in the chat what you guys think here. If we're wrong, let us know. If we're right, also let us know and share with your friends. But that's the Washington Commanders for you. The last team on our list is the New York Football Giants, and they kicked off their draft strong by selecting in the top 10 Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, big-time prospects there, tops of the board on some people's list, and then followed it up in the second round with one of Aaron's favorite prospects, Wan'Dale Robinson, the wide receiver out of Kentucky, and that is actually where I want to start before we get into really Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. The Wan'Dale Robinson pick, you, Aaron, you're high on him. One of my guys really of the draft, especially in the wide receiver position. You look at their wide receiver depth chart, Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney's still there. Now you throw Wan'Dale Robinson in. Where does he fit? I'm not saying it's a bad pick. You gave that one a B. That's a good grade, especially for your very hard standards. Where does Wan'Dale Robinson fit in with this Giants team?
I think he's going to make an immediate impact, and not in the sense of some fantasy terms where he's going to have 1,000 yards and do all that stuff. To me, it's a weapon on offense to give Daniel Jones the best chance to succeed. We talked about Daniel Jones throwing to Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard. Nice little players, but are they dynamic? We saw the difference in their offense when Saquon Barkley is going and dynamic, and when Kadarius Toney came in and was being dynamic. They were able to make some more plays in that offense. Now you bring over a Brian Dable, you get him a weapon like Wan'Dale Robinson. This is about putting weapons around Daniel Jones to see if he is the guy. And I don't think this was a short-term play. I think this was a long-term play on Brian Dable's part. Sterling Shepard's probably not going to be there much longer. You talked about already trying to move Darius Slayton. That doesn't leave very many weapons there, right? You still have a Kadarius Toney. Saquon Barkley said to be in good shape. We'll see if he can stay healthy. But outside of that, they don't have much. Wan'Dale Robinson is that kind of piece. He is electric. The man, his last season at Kentucky, when they shifted full-time to receiver, he had 100 catches, 1,400 yards, had another 100 on the ground, had 7 touchdowns. This is a guy, if you get him the ball in his hands, he is going to make plays. I think that's really, really important for the Giants to see if Daniel Jones is that guy.
Can you shut up about Saquon Barkley? I'm done with that. I'm done. I said it last year. I said the same thing every year. Stop talking about Saquon Barkley. That was like I was in high school when that dude was good. Okay, so let's chill. About to graduate college for any purpose. Anyway, Looking at this offense, I do like the Wan'Dale pick, but once again, this Giants team had so many needs, right? They need cornerback help. They ended up getting one eventually. They had so many needs. I didn't think wide receiver was a need there. I mean, this is a team that's far off. And yeah, they pull up the graphic there. I mean, they did need some O-line help. They lose a Will Hernandez. They did replace him with Glowinski. But still, I think this team needed more help in other areas than wide receiver. They had Kadarius Toney they drafted last year. I think they were fine at one position that they actually had depth on the roster was at wide receiver. I'm not a huge fan. Sure, he might be a dynamic playmaker like you talk about. But other than that, I don't see the need to draft that position right there.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You talked about they didn't have a need and they had needs everywhere else. They still have James Bradbury on their roster. They still have Xavier McKinney in the secondary. They still have Adoree Jackson as a secondary in their secondary. Their offensive line consists of Andrew Thomas, John Feliciano, Mark Lewinsky, and now Evan Neal. They needed an edge rusher. Last year, they went out and got Aziz Ojulari, and then now they got Kayvon Thibodeau. They already have Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence in the interior of that defensive line. Their linebackers are Blake Martinez and Tay Crowder. Where are these holes that you're talking about? The biggest hole for the New York Giants has been at quarterback. What do you do when you have a quarterback that's your biggest hole and you can't really address it? You go out and get them every weapon you can. Yes, you may not want to hear about Saquon Barkley. That's fine. All I said was he's said to be healthy. I said I need to see it. That's a big question mark. But you talk about these other guys. Darius Slayton, are you relying on Darius Slayton to make Daniel Jones great? Sterling Shepard to make him great? No, I'm going to go out and get me some weapons. I can put the ball in these guys' hands early, let them run after the catch, and those are going to be the electric big plays that you need out of an offense that hasn't had many big plays. The depth chart is fine. You look at the Giants on paper, they should be a team that's contending for the NFC East. The big problem is Daniel Jones. The big problem is Daniel Jones. What is that? What we talked about it last year. The defense of the New York Giants is solid. We talked about that. The issue has been Daniel Jones.
They were good 2 years ago. So, they were solid
what's the issue?
Last year.
What's the issue on the Giants?
A fantastic job 2 years ago.
What's the issue on the Giants, Dylan? What's the issue?
They still need okay. No,
I don't blame
you with your point. Yeah, I'm not saying Daniel Jones is legit by any stretch of the imagination. Don't even put my name attached to that take, okay? But I will say, looking at this roster, I think there were needs. I know right now you mentioned James Bradbury, right? James Bradbury's still in the mix. That guy's still potentially a cut. They have so many salary cap issues.
They're not cutting him. They're looking to trade him to move that cap. No, they're not cutting him because
that cap.
Yes, they can't cut him.
More cornerback depth. That's what I would like to see them gone there. Is a cornerback instead of Wan'Dale. They went to the wrong side of the ball for a playmaker.
They went cornerback the like 14 picks later in Cordell Flott, a guy you praised.
Yeah, I like Flott.
So they got Cordell Flott and they got, or in the third round, they got Cordell Flott and they got Wan'Dale Robinson. Later in the draft, they went and got a Dane Belton, who I wanted to talk about as one of the steals of the draft. I think that pick was amazing. Playmaker out of Iowa. He's going to be a problem in the NFL. So they did address those needs. They didn't address it where you wanted them to address it, is what you're saying. You wanted him to get somebody in that.
I will die on that hill. Tight end
it very much was a need for the Giants. If you look beyond this season, maybe this season they could have got away with a Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, and then one of those Darius Slayton or Sterling Shepard. But those guys are probably likely to be gone after this season. Kenny Golladay will still be there. Kadarius Toney, mind you, has had problems, and they aren't seeing eye to eye. I know he came to camp, but something is not right there, and I don't think they love Kadarius Toney right now, and I think that's part of the reason they went out and got a Wan'Dale Robinson, who is a very similar player. Get the ball in his hands, electric with the ball, and I think that may have had something to do with it, but I'm never mad when you have a young quarterback that you're trying to make your franchise quarterback, and somebody goes out and gets a bunch of weapons. Like, to me, that's okay. Daniel Jones, their hope that he's still good. Otherwise, they would have already moved on from him. So, there's other needs on the Giants, but I believe the Giants on paper have a chance to contend for this division if Daniel Jones can be the guy that they drafted him to be. Now, obviously, that's the biggest if.
Yeah. Good chance.
I hope he gets hurt, because if Tyrod Taylor comes in and starts, that team will probably beat my Dallas Cowboys for the division. I'm dead ass serious about that.
Tyrod beats Dak.
Oh man,
it would not. I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. I'm not saying this to make some headline. If Tyrod Taylor is the starting quarterback for the Giants, with that roster, it would not surprise me if they're contending for the division, because the biggest issue on the Giants. Oh my God. Will you stop with the Saquon Barkley slander? I get it. He's been hurt.
All right. Let me go into one more pick on the Giants as we wrap things up. They did get Cordell Flott, who is a big time my guy for this guy down here. Loves some Cordell Flott. But Dane Belton and Darian Beavers, two guys we've talked about it on this show before in the pre-draft process. Aaron, you wanted to bring up Belton, and who was the Beavers guy? Who's the big Beavers guy on the show?
That's
AJ.
Well, AJ? I liked Beaver too, but I think AJ. I think AJ could handle that.
Oh, he's a Bearcat. So this is right up AJ's alley here. So what?
Yes.
What makes?
That's why he rated him so high.
What makes you love the Beav here?
I mean, Cincinnati. No, honestly, this for me is the value pick. You talk about the linebackers they have and being in a place with good stock. This guy Darren Beavers is a guy who works. He works at it hard, and he's one of those players who is instinctual. When he's on the field, he understands what's about to happen. He knows how to make the play. Now, granted, he's going in the 6th round for a reason. He's not an uber athlete. He's not super fast. Sometimes he has a hard time beating off blocks. But when he's got a chance at an open field tackle, best believe he's making it. When he's got a chance to read the play and bust it up early, best believe he's making it. He was a big part of what they were doing in Cincinnati on that defense, obviously with the shutdown corners they had on both sides. Darren Beavers will get it done. He can make his mark on special teams with New York, and with learning behind a guy like Blake Martinez, he will step up. I don't think he's this year. He may not even be next year. I believe he'll fit in next year, but I believe in a couple years he'll be one of those guys that shows his mark as a linebacker in the NFL, whether it's with the Giants, which I would imagine, or if it's somewhere else. I think he'll be around for a bit.
I love his physicality. You mentioned that. Like he's gonna jump out off the tape. Like you're gonna when you're watching the Giants play or when you watch Cincinnati play and they're playing defense, you notice that guy. He's physical. I think he's going to be a great matchup for tight ends in the NFL because he plays with that physicalness. They're not just going to be able to manhandle linebackers. Some of the smaller linebackers that the NFL has gone to, I think he'll be able to play physical with them, get up in their chest and make them have to earn everything they're getting, especially when they're getting in and out of their breaks. Again, he just jumps off the tape to me. I really, really liked him. I mentioned him when we did our pre-draft process as one of the guys that I thought would go a lot higher than he did, and he fell. So, again, I think that was great value in the 6th round. I don't know where I graded him as, but I know I graded him pretty decent for a pick that late.
Yeah, we like the Beav. We like the Beav. So let's see what everything looks like here with our GPAs and the way we calculated it. Again, we got the Muke scale here. We got the Muxiah scale here. We value the first rounds to third. What's your scale?
Yeah.
Tell the people.
So the scale is the 1st to 4th round is graded on a 5-credit unit score. And then the remaining draft picks are credited on 2 units. So I don't know, probably people are like, whatever you're talking about, but basically it weighs the first 4 rounds a little bit heavier than we rate the last 3 rounds, just because those rounds are less likely to hit. But you might find some steals there. So if you graded them really high, gives a little bump up for their GPA.
Is this a Full Sail grading curriculum?
I grade a lot better than Full Sail. Because otherwise, half the people at Full Sail wouldn't graduate if I was grading. Just saying.
That's what I'm saying. It's got the AJ grades. It's got the AJ grades where everyone just gets a passing grade and moves them along. Maybe move them along. But this is what it looks like here. Cowboys at a 2.83. The Eagles at a 3.0. The Commanders, oh, yikes, a 1.98. That's not passing. I don't care where you're at. In high school, I wouldn't have passed that shit. And a 3.02.
Wouldn't be academically eligible.
I would not. I would not. And there were times in high school where I had that. But no, the Giants at a 3.02, there was never a time in any of my life where I've had a 3.02 or a 3.0 higher. But the Giants did it in large part because really Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau were just when you're on that weighted scale and you got 2 A+ to kick off the draft. I mean, that's the way to go. So congratulations to the New York Giants for winning the NFC East Best Draft grade. We will be back again Friday live to be discussing more NFL draft recaps. Tomorrow on YouTube, you'll be able to check out all of these videos clipped perfectly for your viewing pleasure, along with the NFC West. We're doing the NFC West tomorrow as well, dropping that on YouTube. So please be on the lookout for that. AJ, can I get you to do that? I feel like you're buzzing now. You're feeling it. Can you tell beautiful people at home where they can follow us at?
Let's see what I can do. See if I can do better than maybe Hans Pickett to tell these wonderful people to head on over to Sac City Pod on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on TikTok. Head on over Sac City Pod. You know, you can find that arrow that says share and then give it to all the people that you know everywhere. Then you can copy that link and then go into your phone and just like blast everybody on your phone to go to Sac City Pod at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Then you can make sure you hit all the hearts, all the thumbs up, all the, oh my God, these are the best guys I've ever seen. Why didn't I know about Sac City Pod way before? Well, you know about them now. So head on over, hit those likes, hit those shares. And then at the very top, you'll see that beautifully pinned tweet and pinned post that says buy the Welcome to Sac City Vegas shirt to commemorate the 10 plus hours of live coverage we did for the NFL Draft 2022. If you missed that special and you got nothing to do, it's spring cleaning. Head on over to YouTube, watch our 4-hour coverage all over again. Relive the draft with the best people you could ever think of. You want the video? We got it. You want the ticker? You got it. You want people drinking with you? We got it. Head on over to Sac City Pod all over the place. Join the area code because the boys are back in town.
Boom,
Sac City
boom.
Pod.
We'll be back again live Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time right here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Belly Up Sports TV. For your boy AJ Johnson, for Aaron the Mukesiah Mukes, and for Dylan Kearns, I am me. We will see you Friday.
Peace out.
That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.